Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Media Moogle, here for another Media Moogle review. I am Old Gamer Joe. Today we are taking a look at the Procession to Calvary, a brand new point-and-click adventure that will be available as of April 8th, 2020 on Steam. This comes from developer Joe Richardson and is a point-and-click adventure based on an art style out of the Renaissance era, and it looks fantastic. The storyline of this game picks up during the end of an evil reign from tyrant Heavenly Peter, so we are now entering a time of peace, but your lead character doesn't see it that way and loves to kill people, and that's a big theme throughout this game. She is a cold-blooded killer that isn't willing to give up her ways, and so towards the beginning of the game she asks for permission to go kill Heavenly Peter, who still is alive despite all of his tyrannical actions. And so you kinda sorta get permission from the new ruler of the lands, Immortal John, to go ahead and take care of business. The core gameplay loop of this title involves you pointing and clicking your way around various locations, solving different puzzles, and potentially killing a lot of people along your way, which can make for a much shorter experience depending on how you go about things. Now, I don't want to say there is a wrong way to approach this game, but there kind of is. I guess it kind of depends where your morality falls. But let's just say, in the Procession to Calvary, you have choices to be made, and that includes potentially killing a lot of people in order to get your way and solve the puzzles much easier, but having a worse outcome, or going the old school route and figuring out these very difficult and sometimes downright nonsensical puzzles that are a staple of this genre. There are a total of 3 outcomes in this game, but I would really only call one of them the quote-unquote true ending. So outside of its unique art aesthetic, it's this optional murder mechanic that helps set this game apart from other point-and-click adventures. Outside of that, you do have the nice option of clicking in the middle button on your mouse so that you can highlight all of the different areas which can be interacted with. All of the familiar tropes of a point-and-click adventure are here, which include picking up items by clicking on them, storing them in an inventory, which you can then access at the top of your screen. You can drag these items onto what you might think is the solution, and mess around with things that way in hopes of solving all of the various puzzles that are presented to you. And speaking of the way they are presented to you, it's always hilarious in the Procession to Calvary. The writing is really top-notch. It had me rolling on the ground laughing in many instances. I had a blast messing around with the murder mechanic in this game, which would almost always produce a hilarious outcome. I think fans of the Monty Python brand of humor, which I generally find quite funny, are going to be really amused by this title. This is a game that's willing to break the fourth wall, and if you're not into that kind of humor, then maybe it won't be for you, but the developer is even willing to prod and poke fun at himself and the struggles that he had while creating the game, which I absolutely thought was hilarious and a nice touch. Do understand though that despite its goofiness, this is still a game that is very much deeply rooted in what it is, being a point-and-click adventure, so if you're not a fan of that genre, you will still probably be frustrated with many of the obscure puzzles. Adventure fans are more forgiving of these types of things, but casual fans may want to steer clear just because frustration and a lot of wandering will ensue. I will fully admit that I was completely stumped on a few occasions throughout my playthrough, and that I did have to reach out to the developer for a little bit of help, so if you do end up going for a no-kill run, like I did, expect some frustration and some really obscure though hilarious puzzles along the way. I suppose your appreciation for the graphics in this game will come down to how much you enjoy the Renaissance art style. Personally though, I found that this was a strikingly beautiful game. I enjoyed entering every new area, which is just drawn with such painstaking detail. All of the characters are hilarious to look at and look just out of that era perfectly. I guess my only complaint about the look of this game is that there isn't more of it, and you do end up running into a lot of the same settings over and over again as you're solving the puzzles, but boy are they beautiful to look at, and they really do have a liveliness to them despite the fact that there isn't a ton of animation or much going on within these settings. So while overall I found the title strikingly beautiful, art is of course subjective, and that may vary from user to user. And of course, to accompany these graphics, you have to have classical compositions, and the game does nail it in that regard. You have music from Bach, Vivaldi, and as you can imagine, it fits in absolutely perfect with the setting and the humor of this game to really flesh out the overall presentation. This all feeds into the fact that the Procession to Calvary has a very distinct goal and vision that it sets out to reach, and it does so absolutely brilliantly in my opinion. It's funny because towards the end of this game, the developer makes a comment about how no public publishers were willing to take a risk on this title because of the fact that it was too niche. The irony in that statement is the fact that it's those very creative risks that this developer is willing to take that make the Procession to Calvary an absolute must-play for fans of point-and-click adventures that are looking for something a little bit out of the box. For more on the Procession to Calvary and all of our other content, head on over to MediaMoogle.net where we have some great podcasts for you to check out. And if you did like our video content today, please do hit the subscribe button below. Thank you so much for watching.